Welcome to The Watching Dead, the officially unofficial podcast for all of The Walking Dead. I'm Jim.
I'm Aaron.
We put the ick in Daryl Dixon. Aaron, we're here for episode 2 of season 1 called Allouette. At least that's how I've always pronounced it based on the song that they taught us in grade school. What'd you think of this episode?
Man, we're just never going to get that zombie baby for you, Jim.
I know. They keep coming out fine. I don't get it.
They keep on teasing it. Like, I was somewhat shocked to see a living baby pulled from a zombie mother this episode. I don't know. This episode, it's like the first time I watched it, I'm like, gosh, this is kind of like dull. And like, I really liked the flashback stuff to, what's her name? Isabelle and her sister. And I found that, like, I wasn't really into the little kid surviving in the preschool storyline. But on second time I watched it, like, I felt like everything just reinforces the one or the other, you know. They're playing deception and being lied to by people that you trust. There's, like, multiple reveals of people who have been telling the truth or fibbing or shining people on. I continue to like Laurent, even though he's like, you know, even a weirder homeschooled kid in this episode. And I don't know. It's pretty ham-fisted social commentary The Walking Dead's engaged in towards the end of this episode, but I can see like them wanting to, you know, contrast Daryl Dixon, who've always been kind of shown as, you know, he's a man of the earth. He likes his rural living, but he's a fundamentally decent guy. He's a caring person. He looks after kids. And then you compare it to this asshole from Texas who's preying on children and hoarding everything for himself with no care to anything else. It's not the worst bit I've ever seen out of The Walking Dead. I think it's a fine transition episode to something that maybe moves along a little bit more brisk. What do you think?
I think it's a return to form for The Walking Dead. And on most shows where I say that, I mean that positively. Here, I don't.
Okay.
I could not believe what I was seeing when Daryl let the mule go. I could not believe it. Daryl Dixon panics at the sign of 6 walkers and lets their only transportation that he then claims later, we absolutely need that transportation to get anywhere. It's way too far to walk.
Can't walk that far.
Strands them on foot because a couple of walkers are a football field down the road. And then we see him in the moat dispatch 9 times that amount of walkers by himself, no problem. What the fuck are we doing, Daryl? How can you release our transportation into the wild when you know we need it?
He was still recovering from that acid burn, and then, you know, after the kids took him in, he got a good meal in him. He got some Mork and Mindy to buck him up. He's all nanu bitches in the moat, but he just didn't have it in him.
That's fair. He also has Isabelle, who I know can fight. I've seen her swing a massive poleaxe.
Maybe he just doesn't properly value a mule. He's like, hey,
it's all about the horses.
This half donkey, half horse. He doesn't truck with it. He gets to get it out of here.
Yeah,
doesn't trust.
I'm American. I need a horse.
We're horse people of Alexandria. The horse people, the Steplin horse people of Alexandria.
Do I look like the guy mules on that cup of coffee? That can of coffee, that Folgers? I don't know what he is. Colombian?
Maybe he caught this kid reading bedtime stories to this stupid mule and is like, you know what, this kid needs to toughen up. These nuns ain't getting it done. Yeah. They're letting him. I saw him letting him win his hide and seek. So he's gonna put some stiff into that backbone.
He's teaching the horse to sing Allouette. That's where the title comes from. I don't know.
But yeah, I mean,
that was a big dumb thing.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Everything else, you know what? It's The Walking Dead. It's neither exceptional nor the worst of The Walking Dead. So,
and I will point out that, like, the mule thing didn't bother me because, like, it's not so much that Daryl was afraid of the zombies. It's just that, like, the mule wouldn't shut up. Like, this mule is not used to going out into zombie land. He's just going to sit there and hee-haw and bray as they and lead this whole village of zombies.
And this castle-fed horse is going to do any better? This fucking behind-the-walls, sheltered, coddled horse?
Look, that castle fucking born horse might have traced its lineage back to the charger that carried Charlemagne, okay? That was a stout horse. That's the type of horse that you just ride over peasants in battle. It just steps on a skull and squishes it, and it keeps on going. That is a battle-trained and bred horse.
We'll see. I expect once an episode for Daryl to release their transportation into the wild and find new transportation. Because that's The Walking Dead, you know, they put up roadblocks, right? They've got to. Otherwise, their story concludes before they want it to. So, we'll see. New horse every episode.
This horse's great-great-grandfather was the World War I horse made famous in War Horse. This horse is born to it. It's got military blood flowing in its horse veins.
I think every episode is going to be, the title now is going to be the name of the new horse. Allouette is the new horse's name.
I think next episode is going to be Frara Jacques. I think it's just going to keep going down. Keep going down the nursery rhyme French songs that American children barely know.
Anyway, maybe we should get to the recap.
Let's do it.
We start off with a flashback, which, like you, I kind of welcomed. I enjoyed this. It's before the fall, or I guess at the fall. Isabelle's at a nightclub. She's doing drugs. She's dancing. She's pickpocketing, you know, like you do. Then she goes out.
Being these dudes, I have no idea.
Oh, yeah. She's playing everybody. She goes out to the Eiffel Tower where she sees some people being extra rowdy or maybe being eaten by zombies. It's hard to tell. Then she goes down to the subway where she sees more of the same. And she kind of goes, I don't want any part of this. Leaves the subway and then encounters a walker, like up close and personal, before being picked up by a stranger in a car. I think it's a stranger, but he gets very familiar later.
It's Hickey from The Terror, and as soon as I saw him pull up, I'm like,
right.
I'm like, this dude, you're not safer with this guy. You're not safer with this guy. I have seen this guy in many, many things. The first time I saw him was in season 1 of The Terror, where he plays one of the most infuriating people I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And I've never seen him play a good guy. I have never seen this guy play a good guy. This guy plays a shit heel, so just keep your eyes peeled for shit on heels because it's probably going to point back to him.
Yeah, I was wondering where I'd seen him before, and that's totally right. He's such a gentleman, though. You know, like he pulls up beside her, like people being eaten in the streets around them. Things are on fire. It looks like they just tried to raise the retirement age in Paris, and he gets out of his car. Mm-hmm. He goes around the car. He says, "Get in, madame," and he opens the door for her and gently tucks her in, buckles her down, then goes back around the car as the zombies are just feasting on people in the background. Like, he's such a gentleman. He could have shouted through the window, "Get the fuck in!" But no, instead he's opening doors for people.
Yeah, he's very, very courtly in that matter.
And then she's going to abandon him? Terrible.
And don't get me wrong, you know, if the choice is between flaming zombies and Hickey, I'd roll the dice with Hickey. But you know, I think she pulls the when she lifts his keys later in the episode. That's a good pull. I thought Isabelle was giving big Ginny from Forrest Gump in this episode. Like, she looks like a person who's just kind of like lost and shiftless and doesn't have any direction, any purpose, which is reflected throughout this episode. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I don't know. I really like this, like this kind of slice of life. I was finding myself like enjoying just kind of watching her and get to know her as a character. And when someone started screaming on the streets in front of the Eiffel Tower and it's obviously a zombie, I'm like, oh fuck right, I'm watching The Walking Dead. This is their favorite subject matter, the fall of humanity. And then I'm like, because I didn't write much else because I know this is something we've talked about a lot, but I always find this shit wholly unconvincing. Like, they go from one person biting somebody on the streets of Paris to, like, 30 seconds later, there's 17 of them. And, like, a minute after that, the whole city is in chaos. I'm just like, God, I just don't know if it spreads that fast, guys. Like, The Last of Us makes the most sense of any I've seen because it's like, can spread via the airborne and food and just it's on all the shit that we're eating and no one caught it, and it's 2/3 of the world's population in 24 hours before you even know it. But how do you judge as more of a zombie fan? How did you judge this slice of life in the last day on Earth?
I thought it was done fairly well. They're obviously constrained by AMC budgetary concerns. So when they talk about like Paris is in chaos, what they mean is there's one fire in a trash barrel behind them and 2 people on the street eating other people. And then they say Paris is in chaos. But it didn't feel, and this is probably a positive thing. It didn't feel like Paris was in chaos moment to moment, which I kind of liked. I think...
Is that a testament to the French?
I mean, maybe they're putting up a resistance. I don't know. They've got some
zombies surprisingly susceptible to dumpsters set on fire, barricading streets. They just don't have any. They just try to crawl over it, and it doesn't work well for them.
You flip their car. How are they going to get around the city?
Right.
I mean, they got to just eat the people next to them, their neighbors. They don't like their neighbors maybe so much. So
I actually got a surprising amount of feedback commenting on your political commentary.
Did you?
Vis-a-vis the French protesting the raising of retirement age. Are you poking fun at our French brethren and sistren?
Oh, I mean, all in good fun. I support them. Like, I think you should protest.
I was going to say, I'm jealous. I wish
right.
when they were floating, raising the rage of Social Security, retirement, or whatever, that, like, we got out there and, like, got frisky in the streets. But we're just like, was it going to help business? Fine, okay. Yeah. I guess we'll starve as seniors but you better help business. That's how we protest sweeping fuckery in this country. So
yeah, aka we don't. No, I'm 100% for it. This is me like saying, oh, look how polite those Canadians are, right? Like that's what this is. It's not.
Gotcha.
I'm not disparaging the French. I think the French have it right.
There's so many other reasons you can disparage them too. I mean,
of course.
Political activism is not one of them.
Yeah. It's funny that we get a ridiculous Texas stereotype in this episode too. So there will be plenty of fun to poke at Americans and French alike.
True.
I will say that every time I see one of these sort of flashback, like fall of the world kind of stories, I always think how just completely dumb luck it is that you would ever survive something like this, right?
Oh,
like
yeah, I think you're supposed to, right?
You can't have a plan for Paris, everyone in Paris turning into zombies. It's not possible.
Yeah.
Because by the time you realize what's happening, you're already in it, and the city is in chaos, like they said. So, yeah, it's purely luck, and I feel like that comes through in these kind of scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's like if she didn't have Hickey looking out for her, she probably would have died right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how he found her. Do you think though, like, is she doesn't seem the type who would share location with people?
Does she know him? I couldn't tell. They never really.
I think they are together.
Really?
Because he talks about protecting her and don't I always look after you, and I mean it didn't feel like a brother.
Be over familiarity, like
maybe
premature.
Yeah, like he's thinking this is the time that this is the time where Hickey shows his quality, like I can take her to this remote refuge and she'll be so grateful that I've rescued her. I guess, yeah, it could read like that, but the way his speech to her, like, don't I always look after you, protect, it's like it's either brother, but also way too physical and familiar for brother or lover. It didn't feel aspiring, but you might be right. Because she doesn't fully trust him either.
Yeah. But
I
she
wonder if
seems
that's
fairly
because...
comfortable in his presence early on here. So
Yeah, I wonder if she doesn't trust him because, well, you're wanting to abandon my sister. It's not that like, oh, anything in our history makes me think that you're going to be a psychopath. It's just,
yeah.
We'll find out. I don't think we've seen our last flashback to Isabelle's misspent, early years. What is she, like in her 20s or late 20s in this flashback?
Yeah,
I feel like she's got to be mid to late 20s because people in their mid to late 30s don't club like that. I'm sorry.
No,
they're not. They're not going out all night dancing, drinking, snorting coke. This is like a once in a year type of thing if you're in that age, and she seems like she's doing it like, Thursday through Sunday.
Yeah, I'll say she's
clock.
23. That's gonna be my guess.
All right,
and then so now she's like 36-ish. That would make some sense.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to the present day where Daryl doesn't understand why they aren't going to Paris, which is circled on the map pretty prominently. And Isabelle's like, we're going somewhere else. She doesn't really give a good reason why they're not going to Paris.
She says that there's a man that they need to meet with a radio. And I noticed that a lot of these maps have marked. There's like code names like Jupiter and I don't know. There's all kinds of Poseidon, Carbone. Looks like the guy who's in France. And she mentions that they have to take a detour because they need to use someone's radio to make contact up north.
And Daryl's immediate question isn't, does the radio work?
Right.
How long has the radio been broken?
Well, I mean, I will say that this map kind of lends credence because there's all these like, code names with like frequencies. So it seems like that they were listening and tuning into something until very recently. But I don't know. Any clue as to my guess is that we're gonna hook up with Hickey. That this guy is a survivor and he's scrapped, and that she thinks that she can still use him as a connection or something. Because you also don't cast Hickey unless you want him to hick it up. He's not going to just swing by. Yeah. He's not going to swing by in a Mercedes and pick up the lead, and then that's it. You're never going to see him again. So I'm guessing that they're deviating to go hook up with him.
That would make sense. Boy, I'm curious what their story is from then to now. Like, how did their relationship develop after she stole his car and abandoned him during the apocalypse?
It would be some shit to show up and be like, hey, remember me? We used to have some good times. Like, didn't you steal my car on the outbreak of the zombie apocalypse and leave me for dead? Because I told you your sister was going to turn into a zombie, and she did.
What happened with her, by the way? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I assume since if this is indeed Hickey, I assume that she has somehow connected with him through the radio or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see. I assumed at this point that she didn't want to go back to Paris for personal reasons, which I think you could round into. She might view Paris as the source of her sister's death and all that. So.
Or it could be just the largest city in France, and it's home to millions and millions of zombies and catacombs and all kinds of other shit. And like, I wouldn't zombie apocalypse. I got no strong feelings about New York City one way or another. But fuck me if I'm going to go anywhere near that.
Yeah,
no way.
I agree.
Daryl, you lived out in the sticks your whole life. Now you're going to the big metro areas of your. What? Come on, man. Come on. You need to stay in squirrel country.
Let's go back to more flashback. Isabelle and the stranger. I don't actually know his name. What is his name?
Hickey?
Well, no, his real name.
It's Hickey.
His real name cannot be Hickey.
It's Hickey. If he's got a real name, I'm refusing to learn it.
Okay, I won't tell you what it is. I just looked it up.
Okay.
The stranger, we're going to call him. They swing by Isabelle's house to change clothes.
Oh, you're talking about his actual actor name?
No. His character name.
Okay, because that's Adam, Nagaitis?
Yeah, Negatus or
Negatus?
Sure, that's what I would say. They see, so they pull into the I don't know, the garage. It's not really a garage. It's a drive-through here. little parking space, and they see this
Kind of
girl.
tells us these people are pretty well heeled. Like they have a hacienda.
Yeah.
They have a house where you got to drive through like a gated wall into an inner courtyard.
And he's driving a very nice car. It looks like.
Yep. That's another dead giveaway.
Uh-huh.
But you can lease one of those on a pretty.
True.
But you can't. The hacienda is something that the villa in France is a little harder to just kind of budget as a regular dude.
One thing that surprised me this episode that never came back is Scooter Girl, because I'm still expecting, frankly, I'll be disappointed by the end of the season if we don't see it, Scooter Girl to be the new Bicycle Girl.
I'm betting that we are going to get more flashbacks of Isabelle, and because there's too much lingering shots on how cute this girl is, not to have her come up
zombies.
on her. Yeah, not to have her come up on her scooter. Yeah, later on. Yeah.
And season 2, maybe we can get Skateboard Girl. Season 3, maybe we'll get Rollerblade Girl. Season 4, we'll get Mule Girl.
That's the new. It's going to be, you got the burning zombies, you got the electric zombies, you got the rollerblading zombies. They're just so fast and agile.
Yeah, they call them Zoomers.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to present day again, where Daryl's group travels along in a mule-drawn cart. Eventually, the mule refuses to go any further because of the dead. I think, I don't know, it tries to go further, but it won't. Daryl releases the mule into the wild and abandons the cart, choosing to go on foot with whatever they can carry. And they hear whistling in the woods and are attacked by a group of children. Gonna stop there.
I like how Daryl's just not having any of Laurent. Laurent's trying to have this inane conversation and talking about like what kind of death he preferred. He's like, I want a quiet one. So good.
Yeah, that's funny. But I really don't want to retread the Daryl not being good with kids again stuff, because I thought he is now good with kids.
He is good, and in
RJ
fact,
and Judith.
Yeah, he's just being a dick because he doesn't want to be here, and
he doesn't want to find a new home. He wants his old home.
Yeah, and it's more like the dick. It's reflected dickishness towards the nuns that this kid's taking strays on. Plus, he's not being really that's pretty a mild rebuke for someone in this position, I think.
Sure.
And Laurent is a lot. But yeah, and you can see that this starts the theme of dishonesty, that the nuns are afraid to level with Laurent. They don't think that he can handle the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's coddled too, he's lived inside of the Abbey his entire life. He's not really had to deal with much in the way of the world. So coddled and lied to. Yeah, it's
especially throughout this whole episode, you'll come to understand it's a multi-dimensional coddling. Mm-hmm. Like, not only does he not know his parents because they're dead, but his parents were all heroes. Joined the Foreign Legion and fought and got medals for it. And then I guess from the nun's perspective, it's like, well, what's the harm? He's never going to get fact checked, and we'll eventually tell him when he gets older. And now he's 14. Mm-hmm. He's going to start shaving next year, but they still are letting him win, because that's the other thing. It's like he's kind of stunted because the kid's like, you don't know how to hide. You suck at hide and seek. Look, the nuns never find me, because the nuns are afraid to even say, Laurent, you can't. We can see your fucking feet. Your feet are size 12 now. They're hanging out from the curtains. They just cannot He has never been allowed to feel emotional pain. It doesn't seem like.
Yeah.
Which is going to be interesting to see if he loses all that in just 6 episodes, because that's a lot of emotional retardation that he's experienced. It would take a while to bounce back from that.
You would think so, if it doesn't get you killed first, right? Hiding behind the curtains from zombies is another thing entirely.
He does do a little bit of Carl Jr.ing this episode. A lot of nuns, nuns with guns with nothing better to do, just kind of just take their eye off the ball, off the savior of humanity for a while.
And inexplicably they There are weird things in this episode I want to talk about later, but we have ourselves a genuine bangarang happening here. The Lost Boys, Rufio leading them. They're all
don't
wild.
crow, though. They howl, so it's totally original.
Oh, totally original.
And the leader is an abrasive girl, not an abrasive boy.
Yeah.
So totally different.
You're right. Shame on me for thinking it. So the group's captured, taken.
And it's not Roofy, it's Moof. Okay, It's not Rufio. It's not Rufio. It's Moofy. I don't know. There's this kid, one of the kids of the guy who died gets turned into a zombie at the end. They say his name is Moof. MOOF.
Move.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you let preschoolers rename themselves in the apocalypse.
This is
get
true.
Moves.
This is true. Yeah. Like, well, you picked out his own name when he's 2.5, and it kind of stuck.
We can call the leader Lufio because her name's Lou.
There you go. And how do we know that's not her full name? Because it ain't Lou. Lou is not her full name.
No.
It's Lufio.
Yeah.
And they howl. They howl, not crow.
They do. The group's captured. They're taken to their base, a former preschool. After proving that they are nuns and claiming Daryl's a priest, they're untied and given a tour of the facility, which is run entirely by children, except there's one old lady, Madame Dubois, who is sick and dying. Though the kids say she's definitely not dying because we're praying a lot for her. And Daryl's like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's get some meds for her.
Yeah, I thought that's because I was thinking preschool. How the fuck did these kids survive? But I thought it was actually, I don't know. They put their back in the setup of this one. They got this aging, kindly old woman who has spent what else are you going to do in a zombie apocalypse? But she's raised these children all by herself, and I can kind of buy with the right adult. And you get some, 6-7-year-olds that are old enough to maybe help. You raise a whole generation. I thought that was kind of a cool concept.
Who's teaching them to hunt? This preschool teacher? This Renaissance woman who happened to teach preschool?
I mean, people can surprise you, right?
Oh, for sure.
Maybe her dad used to take her hunting, because she was the firstborn and he wanted a kid. He wanted a boy, but, it's one of those type of deals.
Okay.
But, they all had, it was a learning experience. I would love to know the tale of, how did they survive the vicious, warlords and gangs? How they remain neutral when they've got the cause stalking. Is that what the name of the soldier is? The cause?
I'm calling him Sad Max. I don't know.
The soldiers are, it's like they've got how they survive. But I kind of, I tell you what, this felt like Vatos, only they did a much better job of it.
Okay. Yeah, I could see it. I do want to know how they've managed to find a bevy of orphans out in the wilderness, but never a single adult. Something is not right there.
I think they kill the adults.
I assume, yeah.
And it feels
which is a losing strategy. Do these kids understand they're not going to be preschoolers forever, right?
Yeah, but they let one wrong adult in, and they're done.
What happens when they become an adult?
Well, but they're the right adults. They're not.
Are they still only going to take kids in? I guess
that would be the safe strategy. I mean, honestly. You just take kids in. You brainwash them into whatever fucking order you're trying to bring them into in the zombie apocalypse, and there you go.
I have to imagine there will be fewer and fewer kids just roaming in from the woods.
I actually felt like I thought Daryl and company was going to be into. I got the opinion that they were in a lot of trouble, except for Laurent was with them, so they got like a kid there, and also that those nuns were able to rattle off the prayer of Saint Joseph instantaneously, without hesitation, and with like perfect synchronization. So it's like, damn, okay, these are some nuns.
While Daryl and Laurent just sit there, I don't know, looking around.
I thought Laurent was mumbling the prayer too. It made sense for him to know it, but Daryl, supposedly the father, which I saw that coming a mile away. That's also pretty funny too. Father Daryl, who doesn't speak English after all this time. Well, he's an American, and then everybody's okay. Like our reputation for not bothering to learn even the language of some place where we're going to chill out for over a decade has preceded us.
Yeah, that would be pretty astounding. You live there for a decade and you don't.
I mean, I've been in
learn
this country
anything.
for 47 years, and I barely speak English, as
Fair.
you can tell from listening to this podcast. So I'll leave the
I thought
Allouettes to someone else.
the Pumpkinhead thing was pretty fucked up. I don't know if that's supposed to be a sun-dried walker or if that's like a soccer ball that's been deflated. And
I wondered too, and also like I don't understand all of the zombie trophies. Like, maybe you're trying to tell people to stay away. This is a dangerous spot. But honestly, just festooning anything with zombie heads is just going to make you a point of interest. Like, if you're just like, oh,
Sure.
it's some abandoned, crumbling preschool, but it's probably not even it probably doesn't even want to even live there. But now it's all festooned
Right.
with traps and heads and stuff. Like, oh, this is got some good shit in there.
yeah, you would think so. All right, let's go to dinner time. Laurent tries to make friends, but the group isn't very friendly. Daryl is asked to pray, and he passes that test, but his manners don't quite pass the test. Everybody seems charmed by him, though, the way he slurps up his soup like a wild animal. I was charmed by it anyway.
Yeah, poor Laurent's have difficulties fitting in. He sits in the wrong chair. There's a bunch of seat takens, which turns out to be a little bit more poignant at the end.
He's really just showing. He's trying to, I guess, relate with these kids. The problem being he is completely unrelatable to them. Like his
Yes.
stupid story about walking backwards for 3 months, even upstairs. The other kids thinking, if I did that, I would walk ass first into my death. You soft ass kid. Like,
Yeah, there's something. That's what it is, right? There's something fundamentally unserious compared to the way that
Yes.
they've been. Where it's like they're the opposite. Instead of being a million kids to one adult, there's been one kid to a million adults who all just cater to his every whim and fantasy. They're his plaything. They're his parents.
They
they're
tell
his
him he's the
playthings,
Messiah.
companions.
I mean,
Well, they're
how
not
much
telling
more?
him that. But they're thinking it, which is maybe even worse. That you just like, what if you just get treated like a messiah and you don't even know, like,
Why? Yeah.
or the fact that this is special treatment. Like, this is just how kids are raised, right? And then you meet these kids who are going to be questioning and are going to be like, is that really true? That sounds made up, and call you out embarrassing. It's just, yeah, I felt for the poor guy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much I feel for Laurent. I think, yeah, it's a shame what they're doing to him, I guess, but I don't necessarily feel bad for him.
What'd you think of Daryl's prayer?
I thought, wouldn't it be hilarious if Daryl just whipped out some eloquent, amazing prayer here at the dinner table? And he kind of does. It's kind of a good prayer.
It felt very rabbinic, like,
Yes,
what, God,
uh-huh.
we kind of fucked up. We probably deserve it, but not tonight, God.
Yeah. Look, we're doing
Tonight.
what we can. If that's not good enough for
Right.
you, I don't know what
Right.
is.
Yeah, and then not like I thought he was going to end it with like "fuck you," which would have been coming out of pretty strong. But like, if this
Yeah.
isn't good enough, I don't know what it's. Yeah, it feels very.
It was good. He kind of nailed it.
Yeah,
And these kids are apparently catching the disease of Laurent because they are copying Daryl just the way that Laurent does, right? Like he starts slurping his soup, so does Laurent, so do these kids. Is this because they've never had a father figure either? Is that what's happening? His stuff is catching on.
I mean, I think Daryl is extremely imitable. Like, he's just fun. I mean, I've made a little bit of a cottage industry out of it. It's yeah. Like, if you're a real kid and this dude walks in with his tattoos and his scars and his cloak and his fucking spear and the way he's talking, and he's an American on top of that, I imagine it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I would think so. So Daryl asks where they can find a new mule, and he's told that a man named the Lizard has horses, and he lives in a castle up the road, but Lou doesn't want to show him where it is. Daryl convinces her to do it by reminding her that Madame Dubois needs meds, There'll probably be some in the castle. So they're going to head out in the morning.
They named this guy the Tarasque, which is a uniquely French monster. They say that on Wikipedia. It says it's got a lion's head, a body protected with a turtle shell, 6 feet with bear-like claws, a serpent's tail, and it can blow out poison breath. Honestly, it sounds like a turtleized basilisk. It sounds like you cross the English Channel and the basilisks there have turtle shells. But, yeah.
Sounds like every Godzilla monster put together.
Yeah, it does have...
Mecha La Tarasque, is that a thing?
Yeah. It's got quite a bit of Gamera in there.
It just needs moth wings, and we're good. TV time. It's Mork and Mindy.
The highlight of the episode, I thought this was cute, and like, you know, and have you been to the Children's Museum in Indianapolis?
With the bike?
They have, with the bike, that's the first thing I thought of. There's an exhibit that's been there for at least 40 years.
Yeah.
We can climb on top of an exercise bike, and you pedal, and there's like this pyramid of power. Like the first thing you turn on, I think, is a light bulb, and then it's a fan, and then it's a radio. And if you pedal real hard and real fast, at the top tier is a TV that will run as long as you pedal it. That was always the one of the highlights of the trip is like I'm gonna pedal and I'm gonna make that TV turn on. I thought it was cool. And Mork and Mindy is a great pull. It's a great, like, I think kids would love it, adults would love it. It seems it's consistent with my impression of the French people's sense of humor.
I would say it's never meant to be taken as a religion or as a social ritual, and I'm worried for the future of these kids. Based on what I bet
Mork and Mindy would serve as a better framework as a religion than most.
You might not be wrong. Might not be wrong. So after TV, Daryl and Isabelle share a bed. Not in that way. They're just sleeping. Well, they're trying to sleep. Daryl admits he lied about helping Madame Dubois. She says she lied about Asterisk being dead. Or just like she lied about that. She asks about the TV show. Daryl says it used to make everything better, and she understands wanting to escape.
What'd you make of her sharing the bed with Daryl?
It was a necessity. I didn't think it was anything.
I know that.
She's got her back to him, like... Well,
it says something. It says something about Daryl that she would suggest that
with the way he smells. Sure.
No, I mean like that.
Oh,
she must not think that he's like the type of guy who would take advantage of that situation. Like she's only known him for 24 hours, and she's suggesting they share a bed. And he is a rough rep, but like I don't know, like up until they did the Daryl has a love interest in like season 10 of The Walking Dead. The biggest theory was that he was kind of like asexual. Or maybe because he's just that way, he was born that way, or as a result of the trauma that he experienced as a child. But and it's like, to me, I never liked the relationship he had with what's her face, the blonde
Connie?
military.
Oh.
No, not Connie. I thought Connie was actually something that could have gone somewhere. But the relationship he had with like the blonde cabin woman that turned out to be a religious fanatic, Leah, thank you. That never sat right with me because it just came out of nowhere. And I feel like this show is maybe retconning back to Daryl just kind of not being that way. Do you feel me on that, or am I reading too much in this interaction?
Well, I mean, like with Laurent, I think the thing here is he doesn't want to establish a new home. You know, he's not really looking to get to know these people, it seems.
Right.
At the first, I mean, his whole goal is to get the hell out of here and get back home. So
yeah, and he repeats that many times this episode in kind of an off-putting way.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
Yeah, he's very focused on that.
Yeah, and he does it in this scene, right? Like, we just need to get that radio. And he says it's too far to walk. I don't know why he released the mule, but do what you got to do, I guess. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Daryl here. It's not that he doesn't like these people. It's not that he's asexual again or whatever. He just wants to get home.
Gotcha.
I'm kind of with the idea of these children having it better than the adults. you can't miss what you never had. That makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know that Mork and Mindy was a thing that you could watch every Thursday night or whatever the fuck.
But it's wild, right? It's wild. Like I kind of feel that sometimes when I'm trying to explain to my son who's 16, like what pre-internet life was like.
Uh-huh.
It's like I always like, when my granddad would tell me that he was born in a house that didn't have indoor plumbing and he had to go out, like when it's 20 to below degrees, if you got you got to really do the business, or that they would shit and piss in buckets when it's that cold and then dump it in the. It's like, yeah, you can have someone explain that to you, but you can't know the feeling of like shitting into a bucket in a dark room or what that smells like and going back to bed or taking that slop, like and like these kids, like what they're surrounded by this civilization, but like what does it mean? The
remnants of it are still there, and it's also it's a double-edged sword, right? They can't miss what they don't remember, but also they can't be comforted by the memories of what used to exist, because Daryl talks about how the show used to be important to him, right, as a way to escape. It would make him feel good when things were rough.
Sure.
The kids don't have that either. Now the kids just have to deal with the world as it is, straight, no chaser, right?
But this reinforces the theme of, being honest, and not sugarcoating things, because Daryl called him out when, they do release Asterix, the mule. That was an animal close to, of course, he's a kid. Every fucking animal in that convent was probably his favorite animal, right? But
there's a chicken that he desperately loved, yeah.
Right. They don't think that he's strong enough to deal with something pretty minor, the death of the labor animal. And Daryl's like, what are you doing here? And now he's comparing and contrasting, like, because she's chiding him about telling this white lie about the kids can save the madame with enough medicine, and they're young and dumb enough that they think that's we got an adult here, we can assault this castle and steal back the medicine from the dragon who's been hoarding it, because that's how they're all they're talking about this gentleman who lives in this castle as this guy who's just hoarded all. He came out in the early days of the zombie pandemic, rode out to all the villages with his horses and his carts and brought it all back to this castle, and he's hoarding it, Mm-hmm. But these children want to believe, and he's trying to say, like, the people can handle more truth than you appreciate, and it's actually better for them. Sure. Versus the nuns, we're trying to keep this kid sheltered and happy for as long as we can, which is weird. I want to go back to, like, I do find it fundamentally weird that they're doing that with his stated goal of being the Messiah, because he is. Yeah,
at some point you'll have to clue the kid in, right?
14 going on 15, and like that's like you forget training someone on how to be the Messiah. Just coming to mental grips is something that it seems like it would take a person a while to do. But
yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe he'll get all the knowledge of that when he's 30.
Do you think that this is going to be something that comes up the next episode, that the nuns are going to like level with them and be like, you're the chosen one? Or
I mean, the jig's up. He knows they're lying to him, so. Yeah, they're going to have to explain something about something, I think, before he's going to back down.
The conventional story structure would be somewhere around the halfway point for him to, or maybe even the next, I think somewhere between the 1/3 and 1/2 mark, he would find out his true nature, right? That's the classic call to adventure. Then you'd expect for him to reject it, like, this is too, this is Aang from Avatar Last Airbender, like he finds out he's the chosen one and just runs from it, right? And then Daryl and Isabelle have to go probably find him, or he probably has to, his refusal of the call will probably cause him, some kind of pain or loss. He's going to grow up. These are the beats I'm looking for. So yeah, maybe next episode's a little too soon for it, but at some point, do you think Laurent? Let me ask you this. Do you think Laurent survives this season? And do you think there is something to him being like a great leader? Or is this Isabelle cope to make her sister's death make sense?
I mean, after this episode, it definitely feels like that. Like the latter.
That's what I'm thinking. That like this theme of deception and deceiving herself goes all the way to Isabelle. That she, like, the whole nun, everything has gone back to her trying to make her sister's death make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're kind of telling us that story. I definitely think he'll survive this season. But we'll see, you know? I mean, Daryl, like, do you think they're going to get to Paris this season?
Yeah, but I mean, just because I've seen the trailer, and it seems there's a lot of Parisific action going on at the end, so...
Sure, that makes sense. All right, let's go to more flashback stuff. They're driving out of Paris, and you've got Isabelle, you've got the stranger, and Lily. They pull over because Lily is going to be sick because she's pregnant. Isabelle says they need to drop... sorry, not Isabelle. The stranger says we need to drop her off somewhere safe because she's not going to... We can't go with her like this. So Isabelle steals his keys and drives off in his car with Lily. And this is where they get... He gets very familiar and kind of in her face in a strange way, which, yeah, it would be weird if he's just a stranger, so I guess she knows him from somewhere.
Yeah, it's just a hard thing. I didn't find it very convincing, him saying, like, yeah, I'll just ditch your sister and then we'll all just meet back. I mean,
God, that's one thing to say that to a stranger, which I thought he was at the time. It's another thing to say it to somebody you know. Like, we have to ditch your sister.
Yeah, like I could get. I mean, if it's your roommate or a college friend or something, like you may be like, "Look, man, did you see Paris? Like, we're going into. She's pregnant anyway, and blah blah blah." But and at this point, like, there's not even the fear of like she's turning into a zombie, right? Because at this point, nobody knows any of that shit's happening. It's just like, you know, but I also wonder, maybe you're right about that. Is he wanting to get rid of the sister just because he wants to be alone with her in whatever secluded place it is?
Potentially.
Because I'm trying to think, it's like, why is he so insistent? Or maybe he's just right. Like, look, she's pregnant. She needs medical attention. If we take her out into the wilderness, maybe he's being legit. I don't know. But there's also a little bit of an ulterior motive, it feels like.
Yeah, totally. At least it did to me. I don't know. We'll see more of this. Present day, Lou knows that Daryl isn't a priest and asks him how he got here. And he says, it's a long story, but the end of it is, I just want to get home, as they kind of approach this castle.
And you can see the little knife twist of guilt with Daryl, where she's like, gee whiz, mister, thanks for helping us. You're going to help our teacher get all better. And he, you know, we know that this is like, he knows that this is bullshit. They never really say what the madame has, but she looks old, and, you know,
yeah.
It's the apocalypse. There's not like chemotherapy or anything like that. She's probably going to die. But like, just first of all, beautiful opening established shot of this dark forest shrouded in mist, and him and Lou walking through it. But yeah, you know, Daryl, fundamentally a good guy. Now he told this expedient lie. The nun called him, and he's like, whatever. And now this little girl, and it's like, oh God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is he going to be able to go through risking their lives over his purely selfish mission?
Yeah. It seems like he is. And he has very little compunction about it either, which we'll get to later. Let's go back to the preschool where the kids are playing hide and seek. Laurent is immediately found and tells the kids the story of his hero father. And they all laugh at him. And then they run off to hunt without him. And then unsee this and contemplate their purpose. Isabelle's paying surprisingly little attention to what's going on too. Like, Sylvie seems to be the one paying attention to Laurent, where Isabelle's like, oh, it's nice that he's bonding with the kids, when he's clearly not, and Sylvie sees this, right?
Yeah. That's the thing, is like, from far away, I'm trying to see if trying to think as a parent, you would detect that your kid's being kind of like a low grade bullied, because like, if you know, they're to come and have like a quiet conversation and then they run off to go do something, it's like, is this, maybe they're playing hide and seek or something. And also, like, this is something that surprised me. Sylvie is much younger than Isabelle. So I feel like Isabelle has maybe more experience with like nunnery and medicine and things like that. Just certainly more practical life experience, because we saw it. It might be like, especially if you're not watching the show, like a lot of you bastards don't. Sylvie is, when they show up at the nun convent later in this episode, she's like a 6-year-old girl waiting to be picked up by her parents. So, and, obviously Isabelle was in her mid-20s clubbing, going through her clubbing era. So I think she's kind of, deferring to her to take it. It felt like maybe they're doing shifts. Like, okay, you take care of the madame, I'll watch after, What I don't understand is who took their eye off the ball for a long time to let Laurent walk way out into the zombie-infested countryside. Yeah. That's like, because they don't tell that story. It's not like they got called away, or like Madame Trousseau or whatever the fuck her name is starts crashing. It's just like they're watching him, having a conversation. Next thing you know, he's rooting around in the mule's guts and feeling like he's been lied to.
And then the next thing you know, they're walking up to the mule's guts themselves. Like, they do a really bad job of telling the story of, hey, we lost track of Laurent, and then, hey, we lost track of Laurent, let's go find him. They don't tell any of that story. It's just like Laurent's out there with the mule, and then they're out there with him.
It was a pretty long episode by Walking Dead, nearly a full hour. So it's like maybe they didn't have room, but I felt like they needed the classic scene of the adult startling, like, oh my God, where's Laurent?
Yeah. They skipped
because
that
beat was kind of missing. Yeah,
totally. Flashback again. Isabelle and Lily come upon an ambulance wreck and stop to investigate. It's exactly what you think it is. Walkers. And they get back in their stolen car and drive away, but they're not fast enough. Good God, how do you get caught up to by these shamblers before you can get in your car?
I mean, her sister, like 7 months pregnant, projectile vomiting, I could see getting overwhelmed. But it's funny how this reminded me so much of, is it Return of the Living Dead, the send more brain situation?
Yep, when they get on the radio.
I mean, was it even staged kind of that way? Because like the way I remember that scene is the same side of the road. It's like, I wonder if there's a little bit of an homage situation.
It could be. I wouldn't put it past him.
If you're not familiar, there's this kind of camp. What is it? Return of the Living Dead?
Yes, that is. I always confuse Return of the Living Dead and Return of the Living Dead 2 because I think one is a remake of the other, but it's one of those.
I think it's Return of the Living Dead. It's one of the campier zombie ones, and there's a scene where the zombies have this. They're got an ambulance and it's an ambulance, and another ambulance comes up, and they just immediately attack the ambulance drivers, and you see one of the zombies get on the radio. It says "Send more brains," like.
And I assume they do. I assume the cops are just sending more brains.
Sure, why not? Oh man, this must be a massive. Send more backup.
Yeah, we don't have the intelligence out here to deal with this. Send brains.
But yeah, and I saw, like, even the first time I'm watching this, like, oh, her sister got bit there, because they don't show it, but like, that's classic. Yeah, you got bit.
Yeah, I don't know how you get bit through this massive coat she's wearing. Like,
that's what I'm always saying. Like, man, people should wear Carhartt. People should wear like wool, like get in touch with wool and leather, and so this fucking zombie bit through a whole pea coat, man. I don't.
Yeah, its skull is damn near jellified at this point, but its teeth are
this is
rock
early
fucking
day.
Solid.
Oh,
true.
This is a solidly constructed zombie.
All
This
right.
zombie's got all. In fact, I thought that was funny
fighting power.
that some of these zombies have been not shambling for more than 15 minutes, and they still got the pallid gray skin, and their eyes have sunk. Like, do you remember season 1? Like, there were some fresh zombies. Like, you could turn, and maybe your skin's a little bluish, but you didn't have a whole bunch of shit on your face. Your skull hadn't sunk. We're way too far beyond that. Like,
Yeah, you
fresh
get the milky
day
eyes
one
and
zombies.
the gray skin.
Look like they've been walking the fields for at least 6 months.
How else would I know they're zombies watching the show?
The other thing that they're pulling into this, I talked about it, the fact that like Isabelle was leading what it seems like a purposeless, drifting kind of like nihilist lifestyle, And then she's thrust with this, this commission from her sister. But this is all about her finding her purpose still. Like when she is talking to the nun in the previous scene, Sylvie, like Sylvie's saying, hey, Laurent just wants to know who he is, how he fits in the world. And says, don't you worry, you wonder about the same things about yourself? Like, these are all things that are filling through her mind. Like, she's been waiting for Lorenzo, like, you got this idea of, like, maybe several years ago they start thinking, like, hey, we should probably get this kid on his path, to fulfill this prophecy or whatever. But it's super dangerous. Oh, we can wait. And, like, I got this idea is like this, that as long as they don't have to take Laurent anywhere, there is this idea that they have this great glorious purpose. But the second they try it and fail, then so it's like this is a big moment of truth for her, not just Laurent.
Is it about faith? Is this a test of her faith?
Right, yeah. I think so.
It's weird though, because she's given herself this purpose, this isn't something where, like, she's been indoctrinated through this religion to believe that there is some higher power out there that is expecting things of her. She has essentially made a promise to her sister as she was dying that she would take care of her child. So she's created this purpose for herself. I don't know how she could have a crisis of faith in the purpose that she's given to this thing. I mean, I don't know. I guess you could. I guess you could question your own...
Especially since she didn't give herself this purpose. This is something her sister gave to her, thrust upon her.
I mean... Yeah. Yeah. You don't really have the option to say no, right? When your sister is dying...
well, that's why it's an obligation. That's why it's not her purpose.
You don't really have that option.
But it's the thing that's keeping her going. It's the thing that's kept her going for 14 years now,
Daryl says, no. Taking care of your child. Get out of here.
No one took care of me as a kid.
Right.
If I want to eat, I want to scoop the dead possum off the road. That's how Daryl rolls.
Back to the present day, Laurent wanders off into the woods and finds Asterix being eaten by hyenas after being killed by walkers. Here's a little dose of reality for you, kid. Taste that. Chew on that for a while. How's it taste?
Daryl walks up. You cut a hank of mule. That's good eating. Don't you turn your nose up at that mule,
boy. Get it from
boy.
the back. Part the walker juice hasn't gotten on yet.
Oh, that mule flank. That's what they call the butler steak. Yeah, let me show you how to cook that thing. He knows all the good cuts of the mule.
Butler steak. Is that a real thing? Is Daryl making shit up?
I think that's like the flat iron steak is also sometimes referred as the butler steak because it's a less desirable cut. But if you get that
good meat between the ribs for the pony wurst. That's what I call the pony wurst.
That's right. You get that toe meat and that donkey. So good.
Oh, God. So back over to Daryl and Lou. They approach the castle and find a moat full of walkers. And here we're also seeing this story about like how Lou is lying to the other kids about their brother or their friends coming back. She knows it's not true.
Yep.
But she's only halfway right about that.
Another person shielding people from the truth for all the different reasons. Like, there's some people trying to spare people from emotional harm. There's some people who are trying to completely shelter a person from reality. And then there's Daryl, who's just doing it to get ahead.
He's getting home to his family.
Well, like I said, getting ahead. But like also, there's all I feel like they're also drawing clear differences kind of Daryl because like most of these people didn't have anything else they could do. Like this girl's like, I realize it's wrong to give these kids false hope, but the madam's dying, and that's been happening for just a few months, and she's like, I'm just kind of making, I'm a kid, I'm just making things up as I go along, and I just thought they'd come back to Daryl feeling a little guilty because he realizes that he's kind of doing this for expediency, not because he's forced to or anything else.
Yeah, Yeah, definitely. He's trying to keep himself at a distance with these people.
And it's children. Taking advantage of children. It's something that's, he's always been pretty tender about that.
Yeah. I mean, he has a lot of childhood trauma, so I can understand it. We get some information here in this next flashback that I'm super curious about. So Isabelle and Lily arrive at the Abbey. They're greeted by Father Jean, who is still alive and well. They're taken in and given medical attention for the Walker bite, which is revealed here. Lily makes Isabelle promise that she'll look after her baby. So we talked about it biting through her coat. There's some discussion here about the baby itself. She's been pregnant for 7 months, apparently. She has not told Isabelle. Isabelle asks who the father is, and she gets no answer, which is conspicuous. There's the idea floating out there of mostly because I put it out there last episode, of immaculate conception. Laurent has no father.
I mean, I'm starting to warm up to his father being Elohim, Adonai, Yahweh, G space D. Yeah, like could be.
All right.
Could be.
Here's another possibility.
I mean, that's certainly the thing they're baiting, right? You got these nuns, and they're being cagey about who the parent is, but there's also no fucking way.
For sure. I've got a way better theory, an actual serious theory.
Father John.
How would that happen? She's been sneaking out to the Abbey 7 months earlier.
Yeah, that's why the father took her in.
Sure. How about the stranger? How about Hickey? This makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Hickey fucking her sister, so it's a child of betrayal.
And she says, like, I didn't know how to tell you, all this stuff. And she's in a lot of pain, so it's easy to just, like, cover this up as not coming on.
Do you think Hickey's her, like, husband, and she's cheating on her with her sister's husband?
I'd have to go back and look at the hand to see if there's a ring.
He's married to her sister, and Isabelle was cheating on him with...
Oh, I would think it was the other way around, but...
Why would, if she was married to Hickey, why would she be going and stealing, like, watches from rich old dudes, and sorting coke every night?
Maybe he doesn't have a job. She funds their lifestyle by stealing watches.
That seems like not settled down type behavior. Not.
You're right. No, he's got to just be a boyfriend, right? But that makes the most sense of anything I've seen yet. Because it's the way her sister acts, right? Lily doesn't. She says, "I didn't know how to tell you." What do you mean? Yeah. I mean, you can tell your sister you're pregnant if it's not under weird circumstances, right?
Yeah, and it'd be a very wild thing if for him to go to the sister that he's cheating on and be like, "Hey, we should dump your sister that I impregnated." Like, that would be. But it would also justify Isabelle's kind of like extreme reaction. But I don't think it needs to be justified. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who the father is. I don't like Hickey as the father, though.
All right. Well, I think you're gonna be disappointed because I'm pretty sure it's what's going on.
Oh no. Okay, so what exactly?
Especially with him being such a major character. Well, such a major actor, right? Like,
yeah.
If he was just some dude, I would say, it's less likely. But because he's Nagaitis or whatever his name is, it feels like they're going to do more with him, and that would be a hell of a lot more to do with him.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be like, the time when Thora Birch showed up in The Walking Dead, and you're like, I wonder if that's a one-shot episode with Thora Birch. It's like, no.
Totally. Present day, Isabelle and Sylvie find Laurent in the woods by his dead mule, and he's mad that they lied to him. Complete non sequitur here. No idea why or how they noticed him gone, but they did apparently, and they went out after him. No idea how they found him. They just show up. And this begins the tour of anger for Laurent.
Do you think I wonder if they're if this is just a messy episode all around, because like some of this feels like cutting room floor issues, but like it's not obvious to me why they'd have to cut a 30-minute scene, since like it doesn't seem The Walking Dead bothers to hit any arbitrary air date or air time. Like ever since
weird,
like
right?
Walking Dead season 8 or 9, it's like, oh, you want a 100-minute episode? Do you want a 63-minute episode? You need a 70-minute episode? You need a 43-minute? It's like they're kind of all over the map.
Because they always have their like Talking Dead stuff afterward, and they can just make that as long or short as it needs to be, right? They control that 2-hour block. So
it's always the last thing that they're probably going to get really paid on for any given Sunday night. So I wonder, you might be right, but that begs the question of why the fuck the sloppy edits? Why do we go from like, Isabelle and Sylvie being relaxed, just talking in general about, destiny and fate and faith, and then suddenly they got their guns drawn, running out, like frantic looking for Laurent. Now, obviously I don't need my hand held as an audience member. I can figure out what's going on, but like still, it's nice when you observe the visual narrative form.
Yeah, I do want a narrative that connects. And not excessively. I don't like you said, need my handheld. But it's weird to also have an episode where they show like 6.5 minutes of her dancing and doing coke.
Where at a pretty deliberate pace.
It's very deliberately paced. I felt like it didn't quite overstay its welcome. I think they kind of just like hit right on the edge of too much with that. But if you needed, but in an episode where you needed them to connect dots on this narrative. Yeah, take 10 seconds,
Yeah, if you needed to connect that dot, have her steal 2 watches instead of 3.
Right. Right. And then you have time for the Sacre Bleu. Where did Laurent go?
Right. That's exact. I think that's exact. That was the exact what said in the script. They just didn't film it.
Yeah.
Or they left it on a cutting room floor.
Daryl and Lou gather supplies from this castle, or I guess
very
the outskirts.
Castlevania, right? This guy has carefully stashed all the weapons you need to take him down throughout the castle. This is just like,
oh yeah. You find
Dracula
the red gem and you duck against a wall for 3.5 minutes, and
it's like Dracula
carries you away.
Why are you keeping this holy water in a candle right outside your bedroom, dude? Like, do you like? I got a crucifix in a loose brick outside the steps leading up your tower. Like, do you want to die, man?
Look, he's been alive for a long time. What's there to do in this castle? He doesn't even have Mork and Mindy to help him.
It's true.
But he decides to lock Lou in a shed and grapples his way into the castle with an old hoe or something. I don't know. Inside, he finds horses, hella supplies, and a boy named Hedgehog. A sniper starts shooting at Daryl, so he goes after him, leaving Hedgehog with his gun to give him cover. Is there not a single lookout at this castle? I was wondering, like, how many people are in this castle? And it seems like it's just this dude.
Him and this boy. That's the other thing I don't buy. I don't think this Texan keeps this guy alive. Like, why would he? No. He's been missing for weeks.
He's got to feed him his hoarded supplies. That's... Yeah.
Or but maybe he's lonely and he wants like some human interaction, but I don't know. He's got like a Jesse Plemons, Aaron Paul thing going, Breaking Bad. Like,
yeah,
it didn't. I don't think this character makes sense. He would make sense if he killed the kid. He'd make sense if he wasn't actually that big of an asshole, and maybe he was like, if they wanted to like have the Grinch Stole Christmas type of thing, where this guy realizes that like all the stuff that I've got hoarded in his castle means nothing if I have no one to share it with, and now he knows his family died. He's gonna like be the new adult for the kids. But like as constructed, they just. I mean, it's fine. Shit on Americans, particularly Texans. That's cool. I don't care. It's just like, sure. I didn't think it was a consistent characterization.
Does he know how transparently psychotic he is? He comes across as? Because...
I mean, he's an American living through the zombie apocalypse in France. He's got to be baseline deranged. Like, I think I would be deranged in that situation. And he's a couple of more points on the crazy scale from me. Probably the day that zombies fell, I question what the fuck he was doing in France. This guy doesn't seem like he's an executive traveling on business. He's not there visiting some pharmaceutical company or like what, and like why would this guy ever fucking vacation in France? That's what I'm saying.
This is a show. The whole premise of this show is some backwoods redneck ending up in France against his will. So maybe this guy had that happen, right? Like,
but he wasn't there during the fall. Like, I would like to know more about this basilisk dude, this turtle basilisk dude.
Yeah,
but we're not gonna.
Unless Hedgehog has some stories to bust out next episode.
The other thing is, he seems like a real dumbass. Like, you can't okay, yeah, sure. He's conservative. He's selfish. He's poorly educated. He's a misanthrope. He's an American. He's all those bad things. I don't think this guy survives in a zombie apocalypse because he's too stupid. There's like, I kind of like, again, I don't mind making the American the naked villain. Not at all. It's just that I didn't think this guy seems to hold together as a character.
Gotcha. I think it was hilarious how confident Daryl is. He gives his gun to someone else and says, "I'm going after the sniper with nunchucks." Did you see this, man?
Yeah.
This is amazing. He's twirling nunchucks as he runs through the courtyard.
Evading nunchucks? I thought it's a flail. Like he's
yeah.
Okay,
what's the difference, honestly?
Well, I think a flail is more effective. If I had to get, it's got a spiky metal ball instead of just another wooden stick. But
I mean, I've seen Bruce Lee wield.
I was gonna say I just saw Fist of Fury, and he whipped some ass with nunchucks in that movie.
There's
nothing
that you could do with a mace or a flail that he couldn't do with nunchucks.
But yeah, he's like, here, take this. Also explaining his cap and ball, like it's a significant degree of difficulty above like a modern weapon, And he's like, you'll get it. He's just so, just keep the guy busy. Let me do my thing.
Yeah. Even if you keeping him busy is popping your head out to shoot this gun you can't operate and getting killed, right? That'll give me enough time.
What kid's doing a real good job is he's taunting him. If you see the next scene, why Daryl's like, he's saying, I forget exactly what all, but it's a little bit Monty Python, like your father was a hamster and your mother smelled of elderberries, kind of business he's giving him.
Yeah. So someone breaks into
all the obligatory outrageous French accent.
Somebody breaks into the shed where Lou is locked. This is a real quick scene. We're going to find out that somebody, I guess, is one of the kids who followed her.
Very poorly explained.
Because
they give him a mask, so it's like, oh, Jesus, this is some kind of shadowy Michonne type figure that's showing up.
I literally almost thought it was Michonne showing up, and I was about to throw my TV out the window.
Yeah. Was it Sylvie? Because it seemed like an older. I don't understand why she would be out.
Sylvie's
there.
out by the horse, right? Or the mule.
Right.
So it can't be her. I thought it was just one of the kids who just happened to follow them. It was the kid who asked if he could come with them, and she said no. So I think it's that kid.
You have to understand that they fought. Because I thought Lou said that she and 3 other children went out there. And I was thinking, but she might have said 3 children went out there, including me. Because if it's 3 others, then it's like, okay, you've got the guy that was rescued, and then the guy who was in the moat, and then maybe there was another person that they rescued that then started, going, they started fanning out and rescuing the other children. But how would it? Yeah, I think you're right. It's the kid that didn't want to go, was left behind, but they again showed nothing about usually there'd be an establishing shot of them.
Mm-hmm.
In the distance,
looking out at the gates as they leave or something, right?
They're looking, or you'll see them in the distance walk away, and then in the foreground, the kid will be there looking over shoulder. None of that. Mm-hmm. They didn't really help us out any.
Not at all. So Daryl makes it to the sniper and disarms him. Turns out he's from Texas and tries to play up the American stuff, but Daryl is not having it. He tells him that America's gone and starts wheeling some supplies out of the castle. The axle just breaks, I guess, under the weight of all these what's. What is he taking? He's got canisters of compressed gas. For what purpose? Are they going to throw a party and this is helium?
I'm gonna fill up so many birthday balloons for these kids. Coo. Yeah.
The fuck? This is not.
Daryl's gonna blow their mind with his super high squeaky voice routine.
Yeah, he just hasn't done a whippet in ages, and he's chosen. Like I don't know, man. Anyway, the wheels fall off the cart. Daryl's trying to fix it, but Huckleberry, who is what I'm calling this dude, he goes for Daryl's gun, and they both end up in the walker mode. And
he's
now
no
we're in a
Daisy.
commercial.
He's no Daisy at all.
This dude is weird right from the jump because he's like, I'll trade you my life for toothpaste. And Daryl's like, nah, I got no use for toothpaste. Look at me. And he says, no,
Did
it's
he
great
say it's
on
tasty on
biscuits.
a crack?
Yeah, on a cracker.
Dude, this is a tooth. Like, come on.
He's stockpiled with chickens and canned veggies, and he's eating toothpaste on crackers.
There are perfectly vile American stereotypes that you could use to make someone be this type of character, but like a guy who eats toothpaste on his biscuit is not going to survive in a zombie apocalypse. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I thought his accent was terrible. If we're going all in, like I thought the character design was terrible. This just does, yeah. This reads like just some dumbass that would not have made it out of the zombie apocalypse alive. I'm sorry. I didn't buy it.
Yeah, another thing I don't buy is Daryl's attitude here. Like the whole point of this entire series is Daryl's trying to get home, and this guy says, I want to get home to my wife and kids, right? He's pleading for his life. He's like, I got two kids and a wife back home. And Daryl's like, nah, there ain't no home left, dude. I'm like,
you don't know
where are you going?
Yeah,
where the fuck are you going, Daryl? It's not about Texas or Omaha or fucking, I don't know, Mooresville, Indiana. It's about the people. That is home, you dipshit. And you know this. Otherwise, you wouldn't be trying to get back. Right. It made no internal sense for this character.
Although I guess all of Daryl's friends and families are dead. Like all the family friends he's made is in the zombie apocalypse. And observing this guy's made zero friends. In fact, he's surrounded by children and he just hunts them for sport.
There's no home for you in particular.
Yeah, that might be what he's saying. Like if you none of your assholes are still left, then you got nobody. But I thought the first time I watched that, I'm like, this doesn't seem like it's on the theme.
And making the point by saying there are no solidly defined borders anymore.
Yeah,
that's not the point that he would be trying to make.
And I think it'd have been great for Daryl to like call him on that. Be like, look, all your friends, like all my friends and all your old friends and family are dead, just like mine were. But I, with my neighbors and the people I met around the way, found some new friends and family, and that's what I'm going back to. You got no one because you've done nothing but like they could have made their point. They just chose not to. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's like a lazy drive-by of Texas conservatives, which is like, again, I'm not caping for those people. I just thought, I got the lazy stereotype is what I didn't like. And not even accurate. This is someone that's never stepped foot out of Orange fucking County speculating on what a Texas and France and caught in a zombie apocalypse would be like in France. Mm-hmm. So fuck you. Do a better job. Hire a Texan to write this shit. They I'm telling you, get a liberal Texan. They hate them just as much and they'll do a better job of skewering them.
There we go. Ooh la la. Look at that opinion.
So
this guy's God. Ooh la la.
Every time that guy said ooh la la, which is 3 times more than it should have happened the first time. Jesus Christ. I'm getting more angry the more I think about it, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, well, let's talk more about Huckleberry, because we're back from commercial. He gets eaten by walkers while Daryl fights his way out of the moat with nunchucks, explosives, and a rope assist from the feral preschoolers. They see their friend Julian, I guess, as a walker in the moat and realize that Lou lied to them. And she takes out Julian, and they head back to the preschool.
I wish Moof had died, just so we could see Julian go, Moof, over the moat wall, because Julian is actually dignified. Moof would have been funny.
I wish Daryl had died, so the stuff we saw earlier with releasing the mule would have made sense. But
would have made sense if Daryl died,
because he kills 55 walkers here with nunchucks.
Okay.
But he couldn't do it earlier when the horse, like their precious transportation, was at stake. So
I'm surprised we haven't talked about this yet. Daryl Dixon's signature weapon is, of course, the crossbow. I think he's touched 2 crossbows since he's been over here, 1 in each episode. Are they fucking with us? Because he goes and he kills. Lou can't handle it. She's got the more traditional bow, or I guess it's a compound bow. Maybe it's just a recurve bow. She just can't do it. She doesn't have what it takes, and Daryl mercy kills with a crossbow. And I'm like, fuck yeah, Daryl's got a crossbow. He hands it off to some kid. Picks up his nunchucks again.
Yeah, this is the melee season for Daryl.
Yeah, they are just refusing. Speaking of refusing the call, he's refusing the crossbow. He's just not.
He gives away
a
gun. He doesn't want any projectile weapons, none whatsoever.
No, he just wants his fists and his knives and his nunchucks.
Mm-hmm. Have we seen him use a gun yet this season? I've seen him carry guns. I don't think we've ever actually seen him fire.
Did he?
No,
shoot
he shot. He shot Sad Max.
Yeah, with that pistol. But that's about it.
Yeah.
He's preferentially using melee weapons this season, which I think everyone is, kinda. Don't waste a powder.
Oh yeah, totally. You should.
But
you can.
He needs to get a crossbow.
When Daryl's group gets back, they're greeted by bad news for Madame Dubois. She's dead. Daryl admits that he lied about the meds helping her. Which, why admit lying now? Just stick with the lie, man. She's dead. There's nothing they can do. You got out of this easy. If she was still alive and the meds did nothing, then you might have to lie or admit your lie.
Is there something here they're trying to do with the theme of like the appropriate time to tell someone an unpleasant truth? Because here, Lou, they're also doing like Lou wasn't strong enough to kill Laurent, but she is going to be strong enough to deal with the madam. And she's also here being like, oh my God, we're too late. What are we going to do? Versus Daryl being like, it's you, Lou. They're already looking to you anyway. You just keep doing what you're doing. Like there is this like a coming of age story. And you're supposed to understand that now is the appropriate time to tell, like Lou's old enough, Laurent's old enough. It's going to be fine. They can handle it. I think is what they're going for. But it's all just a little bit undercooked and slapdash. So I don't think it's.
Like I said, return to form for The Walking Dead. Undercooked and slapdash. I'm with you. I think like the trifecta of lies here that we were seeing worked well thematically if it didn't quite connect all the dots narratively.
Yeah. I think it's funny that the Laurent finally gets in with the kids saying that, my teacher's also with the Angels. Like, that's what they finally, okay, you can play with us now.
Yeah.
It's finally something we can relate to, you weirdo.
Mm-hmm. And then he starts showing them how to walk backwards, and they tell him to fuck off.
Nano, Laurent.
No way, dude. There's a post-apocalyptic cult out there made up of teenagers that say nanu unironically. As like during the darkest and most serious moments of their life. I can't my mind can't wrap itself around this concept.
Dude, I actually think it's super fucking funny, the idea of a Mork and Mindy cult where they literally commune with the Great Spirit by saying nanu, and they keep giving their daily reports.
Jesus.
That would actually be pretty funny.
Yeah, it would be.
I forget what they called those. It's Orson. That's right, his superior. That's who he's always trying to call. Like gotcha. There's this cult where they all begin their prayers with nanu, and then they're just waiting for Orson to pick up, and they're trying to divine the will of Orson in his silence. Like, that'd be.
I never really watched Mork. It was before my time.
It was just like I was at the age where it was in heavy reruns when I was like in
on
like
Nick at Night or whatever. Yeah.
Well, not even that. Was just like they just have it they'd show it like if I was sick at school, it would be like Beverly Hills. Gotcha. It's almost in chronological order because like the Beverly Hillbillies black and white, Dick Van Dyke Show black and white, but then you get something like Maude, which is color, a little bit newer, and Mork and Mindy, which is so I'm a little and it's I remembered it being super funny because it's just. just Robin Williams being a maniac for 30 minutes a week.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how he does it, man, or how he did it. The energy levels required for that performance, day in and day out. It's a lot. After the Dubois funeral, Laurent doesn't want to leave, but Isabelle forces him to, and they ride out in a horse-drawn cart with Laurent walking alongside. And I was like, are they seriously going to make the character with the shortest legs walk outside this cart? Why would they do that? And then I realized, it's him being a stubborn kid. That makes tons of sense.
Yeah. He's tired of being treated like a baby. He doesn't want to ride up with the nuns. He wants to walk with the man.
You know what? Who else is tired of his fate? Is a little angsty. It's Sad Max. We come back to him for one scene here. He's searching the Abbey, and he finds Daryl's tape and the map to Paris. And I assume he's going to go after them. It's the only thing that makes sense. So, more Sad Max to come. Like I said, Laurent won't get in the cart because he's mad about being lied to. Daryl gets out to talk.
Wait, about that last scene, the one saving grace of him having that treasure trove of intel is that Isabelle is zigging instead of zagging.
They're not going to Paris, but
I think they're going to be. They're not. My prediction is we don't see Cadron or whatever this guy Sad Max until we get to Paris, because that's where the paths will reconverge.
He's going to lap him.
I think that's telling.
Yeah,
I think that's telling us that they'll be safe from this guy at least until later in the trip.
Could be. So Daryl gets out to talk some sense into Laurent. Laurent just wants to be normal. And the episode just kind of ends mid-conversation. There's actually no resolution to this whatsoever.
Yeah.
We'll see, a different flashback here in a second, but this is just kind of left hanging.
Yeah.
Where do you pick this up next episode?
I know, why am I special? Why am I special? And Daryl responding hey, everybody told me I was never special. So it's maybe that the next. I think they could, the next time we see them, just act like Daryl and him are just now best buddies. All the awkwardness is gone, and you just understand they can. Or do they come back with this conversation still? Because I kind of want to see that relationship form. If they yada yada over that, I need to see some more of this dialogue. But that's hard to write, so I could also see them ducking it being
the show. Next episode, we open on Laurent walking next to the cart. Daryl's back inside, and then in the background, in the distance, you see the tip of the Eiffel Tower. They've made it 5 miles outside of Paris, and this kid has been walking outside the cart stubbornly the entire time. That's where we open.
And they're just talking. Yeah, they forged their relationship in the long walk from wherever we were, Marseille to the Paris.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to this flashback scene. It's kind of the crux of Isabelle's character right now, I think. It's Laurent's birth. Lily dies before he's born, turns into a walker, so they cut it out of her. The baby, that is, Laurent. Afterward, they try to pray Lily's death away, and Isabelle wanders the grounds, coming up to a statue of Saint Laurent and naming the baby.
I thought this was an interesting scene, that you've got the contrast between the wailing of the zombie, and then the baby's crying. And I also like the father. I think you're supposed to understand that he's giving her the last rites, but it's delivered at a exorcist fever pitch because it's trying to give the last rites to a fucking zombie that's trying to bite everybody. I thought that was really.
I assume they're going to stick her in a cell like they did with the Father Jean, because they don't believe that these people are dead necessarily. But
he's definitely saying a whole bunch of what sounds like last rites or an exorcism ritual. Maybe it is.
I wouldn't know.
Maybe it is an exorcism ritual that they're trying to reclaim the person's soul.
That's where my head was at. Yeah, and because I look at what happened to Father John, and I'm like,
you're onto something there. Yeah, but that was. Oh wait, Did they always do that, or is that something they
I
started
don't
doing
know.
after the Buddhist walkthrough? Because that's how they got Laurent
Maybe.
as a golden child.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We'll find out more. I did look into a little bit into Saint Laurent. Saint Laurent was like a 2nd century pre-congregational saint and a martyr, and his whole deal is that he was one of the friar or the deacons, one of the church officials put in charge of the church's finances, and when the Roman prefects came to collect their taxes, and he's like, oh, I can show you where all of our riches, the church's riches, are. And he takes them and he shows them all of the sick and the elderly and the orphans and the widows that the church has taken in as their charity, and says, here are the riches of the church. And the Roman prefect was pissed, and he had this guy roasted alive for
Jesus.
his sins. And like, he's famous for the story goes that the Romans are they're roasting him on a gridiron, and halfway through the torture, he goes silent for a while, and he says, hey, I think I'm done on this side, turn me over. And for that reason, Saint Laurent
Nice.
is
Sick burn.
the patron saint of cooks, chefs, and comedians.
I didn't know they
Now-
had saints for that, but that's
Why would you give someone that name? Now, obviously, like, this was just the Isabelle didn't put a lot of thought into it. She wandered the grounds, she saw Saint Laurent's statue, and said, "Okay, I'll welcome Saint, whatever." But like, thematically, to me, this is going for like that. This is a big fraud. It's a joke. Like, there is nothing special about this kid, right?
Man. I guess it could be that. Yeah. I have no other interpretation, so yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah. I don't know. I was like, if you got any other kind of connections to Saint Laurent's, if
Okay,
you are-
I've got an idea to pair with that. So this
Oh.
is all a big stupid joke, right? It's
Mhm.
a farce. Like, he was never special. And it turns out that we're going to see the Buddhist who rolls through is Eugene.
which he's not a real Buddhist, just like he
Exactly,
wasn't a
yeah.
yeah.
He's
Yeah.
just some goofy American that with social problems.
I was the golden child. I am the reincarnated Dolly of the fifth Lama. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about
Right?
Buddhism.
This child is special.
But I bet the Eugene could know enough to fake it. All right, yeah.
Can't wait till they start describing this guy, his long flowing hair, at least in the back. Yeah. I'm excited to see that. Maybe next episode.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's the Messiah's prophesied. Back in Isaiah, I think Isaiah chapter 34 said that the chosen one would rock a business in front, party in the back.
Yep.
That's how you know. That's how you know he was all things to everyone.
Yeah.
Should we shut this shit off and get the feedback?
Please.
TWD@baldmove.com is how you send us in that feedback. We got a bit to talk about. Let's start off with Tom, who says, I'm so glad you're all covering this so I don't have to. All kidding aside, I'm one of those guys who only listen to your podcast and don't bother the show. Just want to say I love your coverage and can't wait for the inevitable funny. Your email actually got me curious, so I went on to Bald Move's Twitter and I did an informal audience survey. I asked whether people watch and listen, used to watch and only listen, never watch, only listen, and then there was a dump one for people who just want to see the results. 38% of Watching Dead fans watch the show and listen to the podcast. 43% used to watch and now only listen, and a whopping 18% have never watched the show and they only listen to the podcast.
Wow.
1 out of 5 Watching Dead fans has never seen an episode of The Watching Dead, and they just listen to the podcast.
That's crazy. I love it.
Yeah, I do.
I salute those people.
Tom comes back and says, I listened to your podcast. You got me thinking of some possible new types of zombies that we may encounter in the new series. Here's some in no particular order of favoritism. puking zombie.
Good one.
Always love infecting someone at range. Electrical zombie. I mean, sure. Yeah. Zombie got turned into a power plant. He's Sparky. Immolated zombies, similar to the acid zombies, but this one literally on fire. Perpetually on fire zombie. I wonder how they...
We've kind of almost seen that, right? Like, that burn pit Daryl and Rick fall into, there's still some walkers left in there.
We've seen some zombies on fire, I think, but like permanently on fire. Like their skin secretes some kind of bitumen or tar or flammable substance. So that's all I can think about for now. How about you? I did brainstorm some zombies while I was working on my notes today. Have you got any in mind?
The naked zombies.
What is its superpower?
Full frontal. That's its
just
power.
Full frontal. Yeah. The full Monty.
And
full power.
And they're hanging dong like you wouldn't believe. They hypnotize you with the swinging.
It's a trip hazard. I don't know. Seems like evolution wouldn't select for this attribute, but
fair.
I think a bone zombie, and not why a skeletonized zombie, but zombies who have
the fully
evolution...
nude, full front bone zombie.
No, it's not okay. Put that bone aside. I'm talking like zombies who's like has accelerated skeletal growth, and they have like stabbing things coming out of like their, like Wolverine. They got bone claws.
All right.
They have bone projections out their back, so you can't attack them from behind. And
the armor walker, the thick skin,
Stegosaurus looking fucker.
Thick skins. Their skull has not jellified. It's gone extra hard.
Oh, you're like a Kevlar zombie. Like their skin is now like bulletproof. I like that.
Yeah, the heavy of walkers.
I'm trying to stay towards like things that you could buy in science, because I started to feel like a frost zombie, like a zombie that had ice cold. But like how would that even work? I did come up with something I don't think The Walking Dead's done: a Rat King style zombie. Like zombies who have been all heaped up in like a hot car for 10 years and they've melted together. So you got like 4 or 5 distinct zombies of different sizes, sexes, races, clothing style, and they're all just fused together like some kind of Voltron.
All right. I love it.
I think that'd be disgusting. There was a really memorable one in the second Last of Us that like kind of like is terrifying.
How about squirrel suit zombies? Like their shoulder skin has sloughed off and kind of connected to their arms, and
gliding
now they can
zombies.
Yeah,
their rib cage spreads out with the flaps of their skin, and they just they can glide like a 7-to-1 glide ratio. They come. So what do? They get on overpasses and bridges and buildings, and they swoop on you.
Drop zombies.
That would. Yeah. Drop zombies, yes.
Off the top of the Eiffel Tower. Paris is swarming with them.
An actual successful stealth zombie. I love it. It. Any others?
No, I'm good.
So move on to Bill from Aurora, Illinois. He says, I finally got around to watching the premiere episode of Daryl Dixon. I listened to your preview podcast, and I remember you thinking you would give this a shot, and I hope you do, or the hope that you could eventually come back and watch The Walking Dead Dead City. My initial reaction to this is a kick-ass episode, far more interesting than anything that happened in the 6 episodes of Dead City. I felt the entire Dead City episode arc could have been accomplished in one well-written 90-minute episode. Well, that's the challenge, The Walking Dead and well-written. Can you have 6 hours of mediocre crap?
It's their wheelhouse.
If you guys check it out, I'd be interested to see if you liked it any better. It felt to me like a lame extension of the original Walking Dead series with an urban setting instead of the countryside around Virginia. That's kind of like Daryl Dixon so far too. Let's. Do we have plans for Dead City, Jim? Anything we want to commit to?
I would like to cover it after we get through Daryl Dixon. It's short, right? Just like Daryl Dixon. I think it's like 6 episodes.
6 episodes, yeah.
I think it'd be a good cover. We don't have a ton going on. We have enough going on that it's like a question, but
that's the thing. They keep dumping stuff on us too. Like I was a little bit more bullish on this until For All Mankind said they're going to drop in like November. But I mean, the charm of the show like Dead City is it's already out, so that we can, we could take a half a week and just kind of like watch the whole thing and talk about. We can time shift it a bit, but I don't know. But yeah, me and Jim's idea was, yes, we would want to get to it, but somehow Hollywood just keeps on finding new television shows to release. Like we kind of thought we'd be running out by now, but no, it seems like we're going still full throttle till January. So we'll see. Bill continues. Daryl Dixon, on the other hand, was a far better introductory episode, and I actually look forward to the next episode for the first time in a few seasons of The Walking Dead. Curious to see what you think now, Bill. Did this second episode keep that fire burning, or did it throw a bunch of baking soda on it? Josh K says, I was born a humble hillbilly in Ohio and somehow married up in life to a French woman who's from just outside Marseille, where I've spent quite a bit of time. I have some impressions on the Walking Dead Daryl Dixon show through that lens. I like that they get the gun situation correct. Most guns in France outside of police or military use are antiques or used for hunting. Very few handguns exist, and if they do, they're likely target pistols, so very likely a long-barreled .22. I do wish they had more modern guns that just weren't like muzzle loaders and like literal pilgrim style guns, you know, like those big blunderbusses with the giant cones coming out of them. And because yeah, they do. It's like, yeah, handguns I could see being very hard to get, but like hunting, like shotguns and rifles and stuff, it's my understanding is not super hard to get in France, but never lived there. He agrees with us that Laurent's accent is weird. He does have a weird accent, and my ear is not good enough to tell you where it's from, but I will mention that a lot of French people who speak English speak British English, not American, so that also could be it. That's something I never even think of.
That makes sense.
Like, they're going for, like, it's more of a British inflection, but it's going through the thick French accent, so what the fuck?
Yeah.
There are many isolated little villages in France that could easily barricade themselves or block the one road in or out, and I'm really hoping we see more small autonomous zones in this show. And although they are picking the best of the best when it comes to scenery, they do a good job of showing all the ancient settlements, Roman aqueducts, etc. Yeah, like, what was that? The game we played, Carcassonne? Doesn't that take place in like the France countryside, and there are all these little walled cities in this particular region of France? Like, yeah, if your town could wall itself off,
totally.
You just have to learn how to get along with each other. That would be the only thing.
Yeah, and not get eaten from the inside, because you know it's not about the walkers necessarily getting in either. It's about people turning into walkers inside.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing. It's like anyone dying is a threat, and I imagine a lot of those communities, if they existed, probably, you know, in the early days, just didn't know. It's like, oh, they're feasting and they're slapping themselves on the back for being French countryside castle wall dwellers, and then Granddad has a heart attack that night, and the whole castle gets slain.
Yep.
Moving on, he says the people are French are speaking very real French. Again, I can't speak well to the accents because although I'm fluent, I learned late in life, so I always have a thick accent and a bad ear for the accents of others, but the phrasing, intonation, vocabulary, all very natural. The vast majority of these people actually, I think these are French actors that speak French, so that doesn't surprise me. France is a very strong Catholic country, which makes perfect sense that even the local bad boys would have a modicum of respect for nuns, and that the Catholic Church is the nucleus of some sort of far-flung religious network. Europe is... I don't know, is Europe more secular than the United States now, or have we lapped them? Because...
different parts of Europe are different, right? Like, Italians still are very Catholic.
Right.
Obviously. But
and there's
some other parts are less so.
Like Catholic to where you attend mass at Christmas and Easter, and then like, you know, and also I could see, even if you're a secular person, the zombie apocalypse comes, that could make you a lot more open to the idea of religion and faith and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
you would think so.
Like the dead are walking the earth. This is a literal Revelation scenario that we have got going on now. All bets are off. So like, even if you were maybe scoffing a bit now that, the dead are walking the earth and hell seems a little bit more real, I could see it. Bottom line, the writing's good enough, at least with Daryl's one-liners, and it's cool enough for me to see a part of France that I'm already familiar with, and I'll give the show a chance. Something I never thought I'd say about the Walking Dead property. I do hope this is a little bit like a bit of a messy, rushed episode, and the rest of the series kind of like lives up to the promise of the first episode. But I don't know. It could also just be a mediocre morass.
That's where I would put my money, given the names attached to it, the property it is, all of the above.
It looks so good, though. Anyway, that's feedback for us. TWD@baldmove.com if you'd like to send us more. You can also follow us around for everything that we're doing. If you want to keep pace with us as we try to pick through what is left over from a strike-ravaged entertainment landscape, you can do that at all of our social medias @baldmove, except for Twitter, which is @baldusmove. And then finally, if you'd like to support us in that trek, in that following of Hollywood, you can do that at support.baldmove.com and get ad-free feeds and extra bonus audio and video content. That sounds like a good time. Support.baldmove.com. That's it for The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, and that's it for us, The Watching Dead, this week. Until next episode, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Jim.
See you next time.